Welcome to Growing Bremerton Together with Mayor Lent. My two guests today are with the Public Works Department. I have Chal Martin, Director, and I have Tom Knuckey, our City Engineer. Stay with us. Welcome to Growing Bremerton Together with Mayor Lent. My two guests today are internal leaders for the City of Bremerton. I have Chal Martin, Director of Public Works, and I have Tom Knuckey. He is our City Engineer. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
We have so much to cover about what's happened since both of you have been with us. And
Tom longer than me.
Tom
A lot
longer. So I think, Tom, let's go back 20 years ago before you worked for the city. I know you were born in Washington State. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and the goals that you set for your career.
I grew up in Olympia and went to high school in Tacoma. Actually graduated from college at St. Martin's in Lacey. My
Great engineering school.
Great,
Yep.
Great school, excellent school.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite courses were hydraulics and structural engineering. And after I got out of college, I ended up in a hydraulic firm, Montgomery Watson in Bellevue, and was there for about 5 years, and then was hired almost 21 years ago with Bremerton, and I've been here ever since.
And who was the director when you were hired?
Gene Sampley.
Gene Sampley.
Mm-hmm.
He had a long time with the city as well. And you've seen dozens, if not 100 changes in this city.
So it's been great. It's been a great experience working for Bremerton and seeing it grow.
Now, since Chal's been here, and he was hired in 2012, we actually had an interview at Evergreen Rotary Park in August
Yes,
2012.
I remember. Mm-hmm.
And I'd like our audience to know, you really sought out this job. And once you had been hired, how long did it take you to invest in the city?
Well, I did, Mayor, and my wife and I, my wife Lois, we were very enthusiastic about coming to the city. I was so impressed when I got here. The city is beautiful. As it turned out, we came at a wonderful time to buy property. Mm-hmm. We looked at the Harborside condominiums. There was one available. We bought one of the condominiums at the Harborside
Mm-hmm.
there, and it's a ground level condominium. Mayor, I can't describe to you how beautiful it is there. It's just spectacular. The moon comes up to the south over Port Orchard. Sometimes you go outside at night. It's like you're living on a different planet. It's so beautiful. And so I was just so impressed with how pretty Bremerton is. Mm-hmm. Evergreen Park, if you recall, if people think back to what the park looked like in 2012, what it looks like now, mm-hmm. Well, we still got it a little bit torn up, but what it will look like in this spring of 2016, it's just remarkable the transformation that's occurred there. There's so many good things going on in the city. Since then, my wife and I, we saw the tremendous potential here. We've got a great staff. We're lean, but we're good. And
we became lean during that recession, and Tom, you experienced a lot of that. There were many, many changes. We went from 360 employees to about 310, and we've maintained that 310 for these last 7 years since I've been mayor. You weren't city engineer when Chal first got here, but since you've become
yes,
that...
he was. Yeah, had
just
at the same time,
right.
So your responsibility, and for people to know, as a city engineer, you do more than just the streets and the things that they see physically. Tell us a little bit about some of the things that you oversee with your engineers and engineer techs.
Well, Bremerton's really a full-service city.
Mm-hmm.
We have we have water service. We have a water source, Casad Dam, surface water source, provides about 2/3 of the water to the city. We have a number of well sites for the water as well. Wastewater, we have 2 wastewater treatment plants. One of them is a combined sewer overflow treatment plant, so it only operates a handful of times in a year. Mm-hmm. And we also have a stormwater utility. And then we coordinate with Waste Management, who provides our garbage service, along with the street responsibility. So we really, all of the municipal activities that a major city would have, mm-hmm. we have in Bremerton. And what What I like to think of the engineering as a consulting firm where our clients are the citizens of Bremerton and the operations and maintenance staff for the city. And so we provide that service to the city.
Two of the things that we're very proud of, one is the CSO, Combined Sewer Overflow. We are the first city to actually separate our stormwater, and that was a major project and some of the beginning of some of our new streetscapes. And the sewering of Gorst. That was a $9 million job, and you were responsible or involved in both of those things. We had some challenges, didn't we?
They were very challenging projects. The combined sewer overflow reduction program took 20 years. It's a $50 million program. I was involved initially on design of some of the projects. I did the management of construction of a couple of the projects, but I was really the lead for the city in putting together the funding packages through the bulk of that work. And then we were able to get some of the ARA funds, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funds, that helped fund the sewer work down in Gorst, and I was definitely responsible.
I had just become mayor, and Norm Dix, congressman, was still at the height of his career, and he was there with that shoveling. It was an amazing project, and that's one of the things that, as the city is growing, what we provide in our utilities make it very rewarding for people that live out in the county now to be part of the city, because we supply the water, we supply the sewer, we've got great things that we can provide services for. So great projects, expensive, but pretty exciting. On that CSO, I know it took 20 years, the 50 million, and 4 mayors. So how lucky for us that we're here to enjoy the fruits of our labor. Chal, the things that are really happening, and the biggest difference that people find, are the new streets, the design of our streets. You came on board right after the Manette Bridge, and so you got to see that new thing. It's an icon. The other one was 80 years old, so we're glad that we have such a beautiful bridge. And we have an opportunity to the roundabout that's over on Manette. There's something that is kind of sitting on the shelf, but I think it's something that as you have your public meetings, you might talk about opportunities for the city. Tell us a little bit about what's coming up in 2016.
Well, I'm glad you reminded me about that bridge. The mayor is a huge thing for the city, $65 million investment in the city. It is iconic. Really, that bridge is sort of the key link in our bridge-to-bridge urban trail. We're continuing on with that in 2016. One of the very important things we're going to be doing is designing the Lebo Boulevard Improvement Project, which is about a mile in length and starts from Lower Wheaton Way there at the intersection of Cherry and Lebo and goes on out to the city limits. And so we're getting input from the public on that right now. And I'm sorry, I'm talking so fast here, I forgot your question. I think you're just sort of curious about what I'm seeing about coming together as far as our projects.
The projects that we'll be faced with.
And we're going. The city's going with a little different look. The city really is implementing the vision that was put together really right after the turn of the century in the early 2000s. The city had a plan. Now, 10 years later, we're implementing that plan. Washington Avenue is nearly done. As you just mentioned, we've also got a future plan for a possible roundabout at the intersection of the west intersection of the Manette Bridge and Washington Avenue. We'll carry out the street improvements and the sidewalk pedestrian improvements on out to Warren Avenue. Tom's been working very hard on a future project to reconfigure the Warren Avenue Bridge for a better pedestrian access and a much more pedestrian-friendly experience, which doesn't currently exist on that bridge.
Right.
That'll tie into the Lebo project as well as the future 11th Street project that will go out to Warren Avenue. The college, we're not doing everything in the city. The college has this wonderful new building, the biggest single community college construction project ever in the history of the
state of Washington.
And that's going right here at Olympic College. the college is another center in the town. We're tying our transportation infrastructure into that. Tom's got a project that he's working on with the state in partnership to improve the pedestrian access on Warren Avenue. He's going to be working on that with the state this summer, or really this spring and possibly into the summer. So, and we're also moving further away from the center of the city. We've got the core of the city work done. We've got Pacific Avenue done, completely from the waterfront clear to Evergreen Park.
Correct.
We've got more big private residential, high-density residential projects going forward in the city. That will bring more people who live downtown. We get more people that live downtown. That'll provide the core for bringing in more services.
Right.
And so all of this builds on itself. And from my perspective, and as a resident myself, I just think it's just wonderful. All of these things are going on in the city. And I've worked many places around the state. I've been a public works director of 4 different places. I've never seen the amount of activity for a jurisdiction our size anywhere in the state. It truly, Mayor, it's remarkable.
Well, it's remarkable, and I think you lead by example. And as far as mentoring, we all know, all of the directors for the city, the passion that you have for the city.
Well,
and so,
Mayor, and Tom might say that I don't mentor, I tour mentor. I think.
Well, that's why he has his own little crafty crew.
He
So
needs a crafty crew.
the
Work for
ones
me.
that
Yeah.
that are you're working with, Tom, and as Chal talked about, that 3-mile loop that has bicycles and it has walkability, and it's that multimodal. The new thing with the state and with the federal government is that we need to be a city that has mobility of every type. And so anytime we get federal dollars or even state dollars, they have some requirements where you have to take and have those sidewalks and have those bike lanes. What you're kind of designing, or I should say are responsible for, is this year we're going to have construction projects that are going to take some of our intersections. Talk a little bit, Tom, about what you're involved in for what the state's doing on ADA ramps at each one of the cutaways on those intersections.
On Warren Avenue, Wheaton Way, I believe there's 53 ADA ramps that are being replaced, and that's in partnership with the city. WashDOT has a responsibility to replace about half of the ADA ramps, but they're partnering with the city and paying for half of the construction cost of the rest of the ADA ramps.
That's great.
And my understanding is it's the first time they've done that, and that's really a wonderful thing. So that entire corridor will have upgraded curb ramps. In addition to that, with a couple different grant programs, we have 2 construction projects that will be addressing about 10 different intersections within the city. And we'll be replacing the curb ramps, the ADA ramps, with new pedestrian signals, the kind that count down. And also the push buttons will have, they'll have audio countdown as well.
Oh, that's great. We're trying to get better about the participation of our residents. And yet sometimes we'll have a meeting, we'll show some designs, and the feeling is it's a done deal. The city has already drawn the picture, so why are we here? Tom, your engineers have to look at slopes, they have to look at easements, right-of-way, all of the technical things that make up a design of a street change, a sidewalk. So as we look at, and I can use the Kitsap Way Junction, you have to have some kind of a drawing to take to them in order for them to visualize. Anyone can walk down the street or drive down and say, there should be a crosswalk here. I could get from here to that store if they just put a crosswalk. But sight, the distance, not having a safety curb in the center, not having the money, so if we get grant funding, we want to tie that into it. So it isn't that we're ahead of the residents. We have to have some kind of a concept to make sure we can move forward. And I think that's why you bring those messages and you bring those designs to the public. I know that you are a listener I know that as you make a presentation, and there are several coming forward, that as you present what's been drawn as a design and what can be done in this area of the city, how do you feel about it? You're asking those people, do you want a wider sidewalk? Do you want a bike lane on both sides? Is there room for parking? You have to be able to tell them what the legal drawing is. You have to tell them what the BMC is for the city and what the RCW is for the state.
And the restrictions of the grant funding as
And
well.
the restrictions. So by having an idea, you're really just showing them, and your staff, your engineers and techs, can make those changes after the meeting. You've got one that's, we'll have, when we air on this program, one that's on the Lebo, the continuation of that 3 miles. You'll have another one coming up the first week in February, and that's going to be talking a little bit about
The Warren Avenue Bridge.
Warren Avenue
Yes,
Bridge
very
itself.
important.
So I'm excited when you take something to the public, but I see how they cross their arms and think that the job is done. So this program, again, is more of a preempting. We're letting the audience know, please come to those meetings. Please come and give us your point of view. And the newest exciting thing, and Tom, you talked about having a virtual meeting online on our website. Again, describe that for the audience.
Thank you for bringing that up. This is going to be really neat, be the first time that we've ever done it. When this airs, it should be online. We're going to take the PowerPoint, the presentation that we give at the live public meeting, modify it just slightly, and then have that as a link on the city's website so that you can click on that. You can listen to narration through the PowerPoints, and then at the end of the presentation, there will be a survey that you can take to provide the same input online that the people that attended the meeting live were able to provide. And so that'll be for both the configuration for the Lebo Boulevard project, and then also for the Warren Avenue Bridge project. And it's going to be really neat, first time we've ever done it.
And when are we looking for that to take place? That'll be live?
It should be live for
1st of
the
February?
Lebo project definitely by the end of January.
Okay.
And for the Warren Avenue Bridge, probably a couple days after that meeting. And that meeting it'll be the first week in February, so about that time.
And you know, Chal, we've got a second aircraft carrier. That means we had 1,900 when it first arrived, another 1,000. So when you were completing the project on Washington, and not only do you oversee everything that Tom does and the other managers that you have, you're out there kind of timing how long it takes at our peak traffic. So when we have commuter traffic, what's about the distance when the shipyard lets out? What are we looking at timing?
Right. Mayor, as you know, the Washington Avenue project is completed. There are still some minor things that we can do to work on that some more. I've been out there watching the traffic at the evening rush hour. That's what everybody's worried about. Before the project, when there were still 4 lanes, 2 lanes on each side, 2 northbound, 2 southbound, the evening rush hour would end. I believe the end time was around 4:25. Sometimes it was as early as 4:23. I'd have to go back and look at my notes.
I think
I was
that's
out
a
there
pretty good
again
estimation.
yesterday, and the end of the rush hour drops off at 4:27. Now, considering that we also assume that there's a bit more traffic than there was back 2 years ago, or last year when we were looking at this to base the comparison on, that's pretty good. So with the new configuration of just a single lane, we're still losing about 3 minutes to 4 minutes from where we were before.
Okay.
So that's what we're losing. But what we gain is a beautiful facility that really invites people in the downtown area to walk on our premier waterfront street, to connect to that beautiful bridge. And so for 23 hours and 30 minutes of every day,
Right.
that street has plenty of capacity. It's at capacity for 30 minutes of the day.
That's right.
And so when we discuss this, that's the direction that a lot of cities are going. but it's even more important, in my view, for Bremerton because of just the natural beauty of the physical setting of this city. And so, so right now, we're 3 to 4 minutes behind where we were a year ago before we started the project, but we still have some additional work to do. It looks like we could possibly help that traffic get a little, get through the intersection at the Manette Bridge a little bit faster. But it's only been operating for a week, so we haven't had a chance to do that yet. But we'll watch that, and also people will get used to that commute and the configuration, and that will reduce the friction as well. So when we went into this, the original modeling showed a delay from the previous configuration of 2 to 3 minutes. We're very close to that now, and so I think we're about right at what we expected.
That 30-minute is nothing to what I hear on the radio on the I-5 corridor. So we still feel pretty excited about what we can contain within our city, and the growth is good. It's just a matter of patience, and I think that's the one thing. There was an article written about our red light cameras, and we have actually doubled what we did 2 years ago. And so I was asked, why would that be happening? People get used to a system of travel, and when they are slowed down in traffic, if they have to have a long queue at a red light, or if they want to just avoid having to stop, they speed up. I find more people are anxious to get from point A to point B, and it's that they're trying to speed up that we're getting more of those tickets done. We had a really good, we were doing exactly what they were supposed to do, slow down the traffic, avoid those accidents that we've had. So we're going to watch that. We watch that just like you do. We rely on Public Works for everything visual that the people live here. Even when we have special events, your people are out there doing something, whether it's putting up barriers, the signage that goes across the streets. We've got a 2-day Brewfest coming up. We've got a fly-in coming up. We've got our Blackberry Festival, our Armed Forces Day Parade. We're going to have hydroplane races. We've got a lot of exciting things coming to our city, and you're making it possible for people to get around for these. So first of all, thank you for that. Recently there's just been in Flint, Michigan, and both of you are aware that they're having a drinking water problem. So under your perusal, you have a water resource manager, Kathy Cahill. Kathleen's been here about as long as you, hasn't she?
Longer.
Longer, 20 years. So she's pretty much an expert about the great water that Bremerton has. And I know you talked about a press release going out. Nothing in our city is similar to what Flint, Michigan is having.
No.
So the contamination in their water of lead, a lot of that is coming from the households themselves. Can you just touch a little bit on how the water is so safe for the people that we have?
Well, Kathleen was on this 3 years ago, Mayor, so we've already done all of the testing. We have a corrosion control facility where we adjust the chemical characteristics of the water so that it does not corrode pipes and cause any kind of contamination to the end user.
Right.
And so, what was going on in Flint, Michigan, it's nothing. Nothing.
There's no comparison,
like
so there's no worry for
we,
us.
We have the water system for our city is truly a gem. I think one of the top water systems in the country.
I think we're very enviable. We have outstanding water quality. We really do.
And those are some projects too, Tom, that you're responsible for when they have to do a lining in one of our reservoirs, maintenance of all of that. That kind of, you work as a team. And without our police and fire, Public Works is more than half of our base of employees. So you really are responsible for all the care and feeding, the health and welfare of the people that live here in the city. As we wrap up our visit today, is there anything major that either one of you would like to really make a point, either that we can look forward to or that takes pride in some of the things you've accomplished?
Well, Mayor, I'd just like to say to folks that are listening, we're here every day. We're a small organization, about 100 people. We're very skilled, and we're here every day. So We're members of the community, so please feel free to contact us.
And we'll have that number so that they can either email or go on our website. I'm sure a lot of them will take advantage of that new virtual meeting that you're going to have, Tom. And then the awards. I'm going to let you still talk about your loving, but I want to say our wastewater treatment plant for 11 years in a row has had exemplary awards by the state, by EPA, federal. Everything that needs to take and happen in a city is happening in the correct manner and with the staff that are really enthusiastic and passionate. I like the morale, I like where we're going today, and I like everyone that works with you and for you. So, an accomplishment you'd like to mention before we close?
Just very quickly, on the city's website, we have a map that shows all of the 2016 construction that will be done. And another thing that we've never done before, we're going to make that interactive so you can click on a dot on the map that shows construction that's going forward, and a little description of the work will pop up. So if anybody's interested, please visit the city's website, and you can get all the information about the capital projects that are moving forward this year.
And the reason we can do those, the City Council in 2012 voted to have a $20 renewal tab fee. So when car licenses are renewed, not on new ones, but renewed, then we have a $20 investment. That money has been leveraged for grants, and that's what's making it possible for you to take and have these projects. You review them every year. That goes out to the public and to City Council so that we can change all the different neighborhoods that get something done. I can't thank you enough for being here, for letting us know a little bit more about what your jobs consist of and what your contribution is to the growth of the city of Bremerton. Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Chal.
Thank you, Mayor.
And thank you. We'll see you next time with Growing Bremerton Together and Mayor Patty Lent.